I'd like to speak about one of my favorite combo subjects. Combo in the sense it's a um, combination of design and music, the interrelationship between the two, primarily because that's the way I have been living most of my life so far. And I have found some sort of a connection, very personally, that is, and which I'd like to share with you. Uh, Most of us would remember that in our lives, somewhere in the past, some sort of events which would have happened, and they really stay back with you for, for almost as long as you live. Like, you might not remember exactly what that event was all about, but it gets into your head like a little bug, and unconsciously it works upon you like a virus. I like to speak to you, share with you two or three such events which have resulted in what we are doing right now. One, long time back when I was pretty small, I heard somebody speaking to his partner saying, "Hey, wait a minute, let me put on my glasses. I cannot hear you very well." Now, that's all I remember. There was, of course, a lot to it. But then, this is one of the bugs I have in my mind. Many years later, another little event which I have photographed is this. A small child listening to this music. It was one of my favorite passages during those times, and it still is, a George Winston number from an album December. But what really got into me was not that composition, but the expression on this child, who, by the way, happens to be my son, who is fairly grown up now. He probably even doesn't know that I'm doing this to him right now. I asked him, what's this expression on your face at that time? I don't know. I mean, he says, I was kind of, I was seeing things, I was seeing colors and shapes and all that. Okay. That was bug number two. The glasses, and then many years later, this. In the process, well, in the life, I took up design as a profession and music, playing the sarod, and even composing along the way. And these two little things, subconsciously, without even telling you that they are there, they are slowly working on it. Now, how they are working is what I'd like to share with you. We, when we talk of design, a profession that most of us are in, well, I wouldn't say you're engineers or whatever it is. You see the way you've created things out here, everyone has a designer in them. I mean, it's a lovely ambience. Congratulations for that. The basic elements of design and the basic elements of music, if you can crack that code. Now, this is very hypothetical, very personal. Nobody's going to come and tell me, hey, that's not the way it happens. But that's the way I see it. If you crack that code and you start comparing these basic elements of design or whatever it is, vision, what you see with your eyes, and music, what you listen to with your ears. Let's compare these basic elements. One second. What is the most basic element in vision that you can think of as young designers and engineers or artists? It's a point or a dot. A point or a dot which slowly grows, if you take it for a walk, into a line, or further into a square or a rectangle or a circle, and takes dimensions and grows and evolves into a form. So that's the basic, most primary element that I consider in design to be a dot. Now, what is an equivalent of a dot in music? Could it be a note? That means a sound like this. It's just a unidimensional point sound. Or let's go further and take that sound for a small walk or make a line out of it. Is the volume good enough? Can you hear? That was a small audio point drawing a straight line. Likewise, you know what to do next. How do you create a square? How do you imagine a square? Are these, let's say, 4 nodes in the XY plane connected together with lines, like that, and you form a square. Right? Now, what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to change the way you look at things and change the way you see things, or rather, I'm trying to make your ears see and your eyes listen. Then, what about a circle? Suppose you started off with a point, sa, sa. You are drawing a kind of a circle. Or a free-flowing line which is connecting the notes very freely. For example, this. It's just a free-flowing form. Now, when you start imagining further, you probably want to get into dimensions, like, say, 4 notes connected in space and time. You got, say, cuboids, you're getting into a 3rd dimension. Let's see if the stereo. I mean, there is some sort of a space. And likewise, an organic form in 3 dimensions. It gives you a feeling of a 3rd dimension. Now, when you take this point, line, sketch, and try to evolve an audio form in 3 dimensions out of it. Now, most of the compositions, most of the little snippets of music that I'll play in here are my own compositions which I have created while doing certain design projects, and therefore I'm drawing this kind of a comparison, right? So in the next one, you have, volume please, volume. Point, it's evolving along with the sketches. Well, it's not advancing. Can you? Yeah. All right. Well, there is a certain delay in advancing these slides, but what I'm trying to show you here are the forms. All right. Uh, the way a three-dimensional form was created in music. Now, when we go further, we've all heard or we all understand the coordinate system in drawings, in designing things. It's the 0, 0, 0 axis on the XYZ plane, the point over there. So, similarly, now this kind of a coordinate system can be absolute or relative, dynamic. Absolute in the sense probably the center of the world with which you start measuring everything. Or dynamic or relative where you say, no, here is my center and I've gone this way and that way and that way. So in drawing and design, that's the way you look at a coordinate system. In music, a coordinate system can be probably this, let's say, listen to this tanpura playing, please. It's a unified sound on which we can weave a melodic form. It just gives you a 0, 0, 0 state. Now, it's important to also know that if what possibly is a relative coordinate system. Now, this was an absolute 0, 0, 0 of the music. Just a constant sa. So, if I say sa re ga ma ga re sa is on the absolute scale. But on a dynamic scale, it can become sa re ga ma ga re sa. Sa re ga ma ga re sa, sa re ga ma ga re sa, sa re ga ma ga re sa. You're shifting your coordinates. So, it's called a pitch. A major, C major, ya Kali Panch, Safed Ek, whatever. Now, with this kind of a knowledge, when you listen to music, if you have a good knowledge of this and you are aware of the absolute system and the relative system, it's like when you visualize, for example, in this slide here, you have a very fuzzy or a hazy picture of something. You all don't understand, let's say, what the basics of music are, element, but you know it's going on. It's like a blurred picture. But when your knowledge is clear, it's like a very clear, sharp image. So you will be able to see, understand the colors. So this brings us to an important other aspect of say form and music or design and music is what about colors? What about textures? What about shapes? What about the overall aesthetics? Now, this is where I'd like to demonstrate to you some more things. Like, for example, here are different materials, texture, form. This is one material. another material, and a third material. We identified three different, you know, call it materials or colors, whatever. But there were three distinctly different things, just the way you would see in vision. Similarly, there is something called a texture. Now, how would that sound? There is a texture of sound on which you weave something which will come. On this texture, you're drawing or seeing things. They are fairly about 5 minutes compositions each from some of the musics that we've done. But I've just taken these little snippets to demonstrate this. Then look at the form. Now a form will have an identity. It has a face. It has a mukhda, as you are calling in Hindustani classical music. A mukhda, a bandish. It has a certain definite shape. Now that shape I'd like to demonstrate in sound. So this had a definite form, a shape, which you can always remember, you can always carry it back with you, something to take back, a tune. Similarly, we have colors, which probably are what you call emotions. A raga is something that colors your mind. It's an emotion. It gives you an emotion. Now, all of these pieces do give you, but to exemplify it a little better, can you just play that, please? Well, we have colors, textures, forms, the coordinate systems, the basic elements of design. Now, I mean, we've kind of, in a way, built up a symbiotic relationship between your ear and your eyes, which are already there. We are not aware about it. We don't look at the way. It could be anything. It could be any of your passions. I mean, you look at things from another coordinate system. You look at things upside down. And that opens up different windows. It opens up a creative avenue. It gives you a totally different perspective. And you kind of go back into the other world having lived an interesting, happy life. Like from space comes form, from space comes sound, and definitely there has to be a relationship somewhere. So I'd like to kind of begin it here and leave it to you to take it forward. Thank you so much.